be particularly difficult for members of the Black community to speak out against Black Lives Matters, even if there is anything that you disagree with it, anything that you disagree with about it. You're so brave to be educating us all in some of these facts that we might not be aware of. How are you today, Bishop?
I am doing great here this afternoon here in New York City, and I'm very excited in Black Lives Matter. I said this, been saying this for the past week. They will eventually be destroyed, just like Antifa. So we have to look out for that, because what they, Antifa and Black Lives Matter, are doing is trying to subvert American law in order to bring in a socialist republic state, which we call a communistic caliphate, but it's not going to work here today.
Yeah, I agree with you completely, Bishop. And I think that it's, you've told us how these psychological operations are used, manipulation, neuroplasticity, all of these concepts that maybe people haven't thought about before. You've also spoken about how the Weather Underground, the Black Liberation Army, the Black Panthers, they've all basically been resurrected in a sort of prepared for mainstream, kinder, gentler, more marketable presentation under this phrase that obviously no one can argue with. Black lives do matter, but yet the organization itself is not exactly what it appears to be.
But when you and I say Black Lives Matter, now to the Black psychic, that term matter means significance. But according to the psychic of the deep state, it does not mean significance. The term matter in the mind of the deep state simply means that matter is nothing more than a piece of property. It is a human particle. So then, according to the mindset of the deep state, when they term Black Lives Matter, it doesn't mean that every life matters of any significance. And this is in the mindset of the deep state. What they're saying that Black Lives Matter, they are a piece of property or matter, which is nothing more than a human particle. Jason, this is deep today, and I'm really looking forward to unpacking both Antifa, but more specifically, Black Lives Matter. Look like we lost your sound there, G.
Yes, Bishop, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
I have lost sound for a second. I'm going to work to restore it here. But Bishop, no one can really take us through this in the same way that you can. So we're going to be unpacking all the information you've prepared for us while I overcome this problem. It's amazing, Bishop. There's so many different things that I'm doing to try to prevent these problems from happening. But I do like to remind our viewers that they can also hear you on the radio at liferadionj.com and on 92.9 FM. And Bishop, it's so important for viewers of Crowdsource the Truth to support your global spiritual revolution by going to paypal.me/GSRR Media Group and making a contribution so you can continue bringing this information forward. I'm going to restore the sound while you continue sharing this information with us.
Absolutely. The Paradigm of Manipulation, the Paralysis of Emotion, Volume 3. And we're going to connect. There are over 1,000 left-wing terrorist liberal organizations in this country who are nothing more than shell corporations that have been uniquely designed and created by the Luciferian Baphomet left in order to subvert American power. So the paradigm of manipulation, the paralysis of emotion, and we're going to go through, just in case some of your listeners were not privy to last week's teaching. So we talked about the term psyop, right? or PSYREP, which means psychological operations through Operation Mockingbird. That goes back to the early part of the 1950s through the Central Intelligence Agency, where they would use the American media outlet in order to persuade, change, and to influence American perception. Now, as a side note for your listeners, the term media is also a transliteration to the word medium, or where we get the term witch, okay? Media, medium, witch. So then to understand what we are going through now as a nation, and more specifically through the PSYOP operation of the death of George Floyd, the paradigm of manipulation, the paralysis of emotion, we have to look at the psychological operations. Now, I found out this morning in preparing for you, Jason, that there are approximately 1,000 psychological operations within the U.S. Army alone. Wow. I'm not talking about the Navy, the Air Force, or even the Marines. In the apparatus of the most powerful army on earth, the United States U.S. Army, there are at least 1,000 psychological operations, okay, that I'm going to reveal here today in relation to Black Lives Matter. So the Military Psychological Operations Manual, the one secret military manual used to manipulate public perceptions. All of this comes from the Third Reich, okay? And we talked about Reinhard Gillen. I'm going to bring him up here in the next half hour to 45 minutes as we're breaking down this paradigm of manipulation, the paralysis of emotion. So we talked about not just neuroplasticity, that the human brain grows into the shape of what the individual is thinking at that moment. But you and I also discuss the second scientific term called neuroparasitology, where the diet of not just Black people, but many Americans is infecting not only the way that they think, but because of this bad diet that is producing parasites that are affecting the human brain and the human genome, which is now forcing the American mind to act in a way that which is not normal, the rioters. So this is neuroparasitology, which comes from the foundation of neuroplasticity, where the human brain becomes the very shape and form what the individual is thinking at that moment, and neuroparasitology. Through bad dieting, the psychological operations of not just against Black America, but against Americans, period, in controlling their personality through bad dieting. We talked about that most diseases are genetically predetermined. We talked about the term epigenetic effect, okay? The term epi means on top of, and the term genetic means gene. It means that most of the rioters not only come from broken homes, and you and I talked about this term, proximal abandonment, where the parent may be there physically, but emotionally they are absent. But the epigenetical effect of America simply means because of past historical pain and past historical trauma, the human gene has been compromised, Jason, because of trauma, because of pain. The deep state has become masters of manipulating and weaponizing that pain and that trauma via the rioters. This is the paradigm of manipulation, the paralysis of emotion. And because of those genes being compromised, that gene becomes cancerous. Another topic for another day. We talked about quickly here Dr. James Gilligan, right? Or Gilligan. He was the former Harvard director for the Center for the Study of Violence. And Dr. Gilligan had once said that there was a study done in Dunedin, New Zealand, that over 1,000 people from birth into their late 20s, at the age of 29, had developed abnormal genes through gene mutation. And later on in the broadcast, I'm going to reveal one of the psychological operations motto, which is the U.S. Psychological Operation 12, that reveals in Latin code that term mutation. Because of genetic mutation, it means that the human
Bishop?
trauma, okay? The human gene has become compromised because of pain, the rioters. And so let me go through this quickly before we get to Black Lives Matter and Act Blue. So then, according to Professor James Gilligan, that these 1,000 people in Dunedin, New Zealand, 95% of these individuals had genetic mutations, which some had a connection to a predisposition to commit violence through reaction, the rioters. But only if that individual was also subjugated to severe child abuse, okay? So in order to understand Black Lives Matter in their psyche, we have to look at the psychology of Black America, operating not from the strength of intelligence, but operating from the emotions of trauma, okay? Now, when we talk, we will also discuss that according to a study done concerning the Dutch Hunger Winter in 1944. And we talked about that, where the Third Reich, and the term Reich means realm, but the term Reich in Latin also means psyop. So when we talk about the Third Reich, we're talking about the third realm or the third psyop. So they forced the Dutch people in Holland to go through 3 months of famine, where the women who were in their second and third trimester carrying their children, they almost starved to death. Now, those children that they produced, okay, 75 years later, are suffering emotionally and physically with high blood pressure, high cholesterol, in obesity, and having all types of metabolic syndromes. So when we talked about also in last week, my friend, that environment does not begin at birth. Environment begins at conception. Because if a mother is traumatized, I'm talking to Black America, if a mother is traumatized through systemic racism, I'm not teaching victimhood, through oppression, depression, oppression, regression, then that child receives that environmental psyop, okay? This is the paradigm of manipulation and the paralysis of emotion. That's
Bishop,
why...
I'd like to share something with you that I think is going to make you go, wow.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here's an article from the New York Times that I suspect you've read based on what you're telling us, because it's about exactly what you're talking about. It's talking about 70 years later, the adults and their genes still bear the scars. But look at this section of the newspaper it seems to be in. Matter.
And that is amazing. Again, Jason, and not to beat a educational dead horse, you are the best, my friend.
Thank
and there's
you.
such a And this gets back to what we've been talking about, Gestalt theory. The term Gestalt is a Germanic term, simply the science of manipulating perception by manipulating thought, that goes back to pre-Nazi Germany in 1912, okay? 2 years before the advent of World War I. So that term Gestalt, it simply means if the cop on Derek Chauvin was black, you would not have the reaction that you're having now. You would have a certain level of a reactionary psyop, but not at the level that we are experiencing now. So when black people look at Derek Chauvin, they don't look at him as a human being. They're looking at him through the Gestalt psyop. He's the enemy because he's white, not knowing the circumstances as to why George Floyd was taken out. If it's black on black crime, there is no Reverend Al Sharpton, there's no Jesse Jackson, there's no Farrakhan, okay? Where you had 30,000 black men, women, and babies have been slaughtered in South Central since 1980. No outcry, no marching, okay? But since it was a white guy, then you have a Gestalt reactionary psyop, as we're talking about the paradigm of manipulation and the paralysis of emotion. Quickly, we talked about Dr. Kurt Lewin, right? One of the founding fathers of the Gestalt theory. Now, Dr. Kurt Lewin, quickly in 1930, traveled to the United States and was hired by Stanford University. And he spent 6 months at Stanford, where he established the Parapsychology Research Institute that today Dr. Bruce McCandless, and you and I have been talking about him in connection to both Big Kid and Kobe Bryant. Dr. Bruce McCandless is the director of Stanford University's Parapsychology Research Institute, where they also specialize in MK Ultra, mind control, behavioral modification. Dr. Christine Blasey Ford sits on that board, including Jeffrey Morgan Steibel, okay? So Dr. Kurt Lewin, along with his educational proteges of Dr. Max Wertheimer, Dr. Wolfgang Kohler, and Dr. Leon Festinger. Now, Dr. Festinger is the father of cognitive dissonance, going back to 1957. That is a scientific term, cognitive dissonance, that through cognitional thinking, the individual holds two or more contradictory beliefs. So in one side of the rioter, they want peace. But on the other paradoxical side of the rioters, they want destruction. That is called cognitive dissonance, that's rooted in pain and trauma, through violence, through sexuality, through the prism of victimhood, okay? Now, there's a lot of clinical psychologists and neuroscientists that I have been teaching for the past 100 years, that because of the 430 years of global enslavement of Black people of African-centric descent, their cells, okay, we're talking about epigenetical effect, their cells have been genetically programmed, okay, to commit reactionary violence in order for that violence not to touch them. Let me give you an example. So then, through 430 years of global enslavement, the Black psychology of Black men and women in this country and around the world, throughout the Black diaspora, that they have been genetically programmed, not all, but most, including here in America, to have a predisposition and a predetermination to both react and to commit violence. Minneapolis, Minnesota, Baltimore, Maryland, Sanford, Florida, okay, Valdosta, Georgia. Again, this is the paradigm of manipulation and the paralysis of emotion. And quickly here, before we get into Black Lives Matter, you and I have talked about not just the epigenetic effect, where the gene of the individual has been compromised because of pain and trauma, and proximal abandonment, where many of these rioters, not all, but many of them, are suffering from proximal abandonment, where the parent was either there but not emotionally available, or the home that these children grew up in did not have a father. Newsflash, racism is not the main problem concerning America. The main problem is the lack of fathers in homes, Black homes, white homes, brown homes. That's the problem, Jason. Because when you have that father can direct that child how to navigate around systemic racism, okay? Now, we talked about implicit memory effect, where because of trauma, there is what we call total recall. So when Black people look at Derek Chauvin, they're looking at him as the enemy because he's white, not because he's a criminal, regardless of his race, creed, color, or ethnicity. This is called implicit memory effect, as we're talking about this paradigm of manipulation and the paralysis of emotion. Well, as we go forward here, and we talked about the Russian poet, right? Dr. Alexander Pushkin, who is the father of modern day Russia. He had said that a deception that elevates us is dearer than a host of low truths. You and I have been talking about what the great David Icke has taught us, problem, reaction, solution, where the deep state creates a manufactured crisis to solicit an emotional reaction from Black people, so that Black people are going to look to the deep state and not to God for a solution, which the deep state already had the solution before they created the crisis. That's problem, reaction, solution. So when we talk about paradigm, a pattern, a set replication, you and I talked about the term paralysis, the loss of the ability, okay, to move, to think, to reason, to understand. The inability to decipher between a racist cop or a cop who has taken out someone because of a drug deal or because of a deeper conspiracy. And I agree with you 100%. Some weeks ago, you were powerfully a part of the marches in Brooklyn. And most of these people had no idea. They have no idea as to why they are marching. They're thinking that George Floyd was taken out because of racism. That's not the case. So that is the paradigm of manipulation and the paralysis of emotion. That's indirect deception, or what we call tactical deception, okay, built upon the paralysis of emotion, where deep state devils are weaponizing our pain and our trauma against each other. This is from the psyop of Dr. Kurt Lewin, okay, a Nazi doctor, okay, going back in the 1930s. He was a clinical psychologist. And quickly, before we get into Black Lives Matter, Dr. Kurt Lewin is the father of social, organizational, and applied psychology, or better known as social distancing. That's emotional dysregulation of the disorder of a person's thinking. That is a part of the global house arrest, perpetuating the psyop of Dr. Kurt Lewin, Gestalt theory, social, organizational, and applied psychology, social distancing. And also, we talked about the inability of the individual to regulate his or her emotional responses to provocative stimuli. George Floyd. That's problem, reaction, solution. So as we talk about emotional instability disorder, Jason, emotional impulse regulation disorder, emotional unstable personality disorder, which gives rise to hyperactivity disorder, we come to Antifa, right? Antifa is the algorithm of the cognitional thinking of the deep state. Now, the term Antifa comes from the origin of the Third Reich. Now, for your listeners, the term Third Reich or the term Reich means that they are the third realm of psyop. So Reich in German means realm, and Reich in Latin means psyop. So we talk about the first psyop of the first realm, the Roman Holy Empire, right? Then we talk about the Second Reich, or the second realm, right? The German Empire, okay, which gave birth after World War II, the Third Reich, or the third psyop, the Nazi SS. And as a quick side note, when you look at the insignia of the SS, it is a double-bolted thunderbolt insignia. Look on the forehead of the Harry Potter series. Interesting. Look on the insignia of the U.S. Psychological Operations, okay? It has a double bolt with the head of the horse, the chess piece, because the entire psychological operations of the U.S. government, it comes from the foundation of the Third Reich. As we're
Sorry,
talking
Bishop, where does Harry Potter have this? Harry Potter has a...
Yes, oh, there you go. Exactly. Now you notice there. Now somebody may say, well, Bishop, that's a stretch and there's no connection. When it comes to Hollywood and the connection to the occult, where the Third Reich through Adolf Hitler, okay, and the Waffen SS, they were practitioners within the psyop of occultism, okay? So that bolt, that single or double bolt, represents the insignia of the Waffen SS, okay? That has become the character of Antifa. Go right ahead, Jason.
Well, I wanted to bring up that J.K. Rowling has recently been in like a Twitter fight with Harry Potter, whatever that kid's name is, about something she said. I don't even know what she said, but they now, I mean, it's in the news. It's not even a question. They're telling us where J.K. Rowling's transphobia comes from. You can't disagree with anything without being vilified.
And you know why? Because J.K. Rowling is a Luciferian puppet. Now, remember some months ago, we brought up that the term solve et coagula was on the arm of J.K. Rowling, right? It was tattooed. Solve et coagulation means to dissolve in order to repopulate space. That's COVID-19. To dissolve through HR 6666, contact tracing. To dissolve through Microsoft's cryptocurrency of 060606 or MCR5. These devils want to depopulate you and I in order to repopulate our geographical locations with the blood of the elite. This is the paradigm of manipulation and the paralysis of emotion. And as a quick side note, that Gestalt psychology, okay, again, is a theory of mind and brain manipulation, or where the mind and the thinking is shaped by the perception of one's past. We also we get into the other branches of Gestalt theoretical psychotherapy or Gestalt therapy, even Gestalt psychology in the music industry, in the R&B or hip hop, okay? Or the term hip hop goes back thousands of years, long before there was an R&B music foundation in this country, going back to West African witchcraft. To this day, where many witches and warlocks, okay, and witch doctors would hip hop from their hip in order to invoke spirits. Now, people are going to say, well, what does that got to do with R&B? Because through Gestalt psychology, the deep state has manipulated the perception of Black America through the Hollywood music industrial complex, okay? Because it's based on enslavement. Go right ahead, Jason.
I was going to say, Bishop, I thought that Africa Bambatus invented hip hop. He was like a DJ and a producer and stuff. And so I just brought up a picture of him, and look at the hat that he's wearing.
Well, he got that information because he has a thorough knowledge of West African witchcraft and divination, okay? He didn't create the term hip hop. He incorporated that term into Black American psychic because of his knowledge of West African witchcraft and divination concerning witch doctors. They would dance from their hip hop, which invokes spirits of the underworld. This gets back to Gestalt theory through the paradigm of music. So they use our diet, neuroparasitology to control us. They use music, the Gestalt psychology through R&B and through what we call rap, okay? So music is the language of both pain and trauma. But that individual did not create the concept of what we call hip hop. He got it from the history of West African divination. That's where we get the term hip hop. So this is a part of the manipulation, Jason, and the paralysis of emotion. So
well, he's also behaving like a social engineer in that he's changed his name. He was born as Lance Taylor and then previously falsely assumed to be Kevin Donovan. Like, what is he, Bigfoot? I mean, how do we falsely, it's easy to know the guy's name.
Well, just like Don Warden, okay, Barack Obama's mentor for 29 years, changes his name to Dr. Khalid al-Mansour. So Dr. Mansour created the original Black Panther Party. It was not Huey Newton or Eldridge Cleaver.
Wow.
It was Don Warden with Saudi Arabia money, Chinese money through Mao Zedong, including H.L. Hunt out of Texas, created the creation of the original Black Panther Party. Okay. Whoa. And I know people are going to write you and saying the bishop is lying. No, this is the paradigm of manipulation. Go right ahead, Jason.
Well, because the other thing that you remind me of now, Bishop, you mentioned contact tracing before. There was a story just a little while ago in True Pundit about Bill Gates having negotiated a $100 billion contact tracing deal with Democratic Congressman Bobby Rush 6 months before the coronavirus pandemic. Now, this is this HR 6666. And it's
Yes.
the contact testing, reaching, and contacting everyone. This Trace Act introduced by Bobby Rush, who was the founder of the Illinois chapter of the Black Panthers, which was most closely associated with the Weather Underground and lots of trouble.
And Bobby Rush was close to not just Huey Newton and Elridge Cleaver, but Bobby Rush, okay, I'm going to say something that Black people are not going to agree with. But according to a lot of African pastors I know in Chicago who were former Black Panthers, you know, they're in their 60s and 70s now, they're colleagues of mine in the gospel, they said that Bobby Rush had set up Fred Hampton to be taken out. Because Bobby Rush was an FBI agent provocateur, okay, spying on Fred Hampton, okay, and the Chicago chapter of the Black Panther Party. Now, according to a lot of Black people, Bobby Rush is a sellout. The police, the racist police in Chicago in the 1960s took out Fred Hampton because the police in the local FBI received intel from Bobby Rush. Bobby Rush was a traitor. And I don't know, a lot of people, Black people may disagree. I don't care. My assignment is to expose, regardless of your race, creed, color, or ethnicity, Bobby Rush, who's got a face.
There we go. Now, welcome to Yourelevelsom. Welcome into the now. Incoming to the levelsome. You see this matter here? Reduced to the 23, the 5. They done already got you accustomed to loving this 23, the 5. They're trying to get you to embrace this matter. You can embrace it, but let go of embracing it the way they're telling you to. What isn't matter? Matter is the substance from matter, from her, from the Maya, from God, from the goddess, beyond the Maya. The Maya is the mind. The matter is the magnetism from the source. What isn't matter? Everything in this physical universe is electric. Every physical, tangible thing is electric. What isn't matter? What isn't? Everything is matter. So why you walk around saying 2 words before this? Why is everyone putting a thing of a screen dark? Oh, because it's about groupthink worship? Oh, but those lives do matter. Yes, that's designed to feed the ego of that race group. So they will accept things first to help other people accept things too. Let go of being led by your fears. Allow yourself to know and respect and appreciate all matter. Now you get the psyop, the psi, the mind, the spiritual essence, the intuition. Reduced to 19, to the 10, to the 1. It's an attack on your psyche because certain people don't want to stop manipulating you for a living because they don't have any other traits besides overindulging in sexual disrespectful habits. So they're going to try to woo you as much as possible to make you live on your garbage egoic tout, which is only fueled by fear worship, complacency, and self-hate. Everything is matter. Everyone is matter. Let go of living in the fantasy. The world, the now, the planet of inertia is the movie. The sun is the projector. The moon is the entrance door. You allow the power of your now. Or you want to know, you want verification more. Here's the links again. You're going to do your own research. You're going to learn to feel the vibe of the person talking and respect the honesty. And then you're going to learn to know if you've been trained to be afraid of blunt truth. Because many of us have, and it's going to take a while for some of us on an individual path to really relinquish all the restraints towards shutting away that instant acknowledgement of deep truth within oneself in the gut and your gonads, whether you're in a male or female vessel. I work with you one-on-one. I'm an animated person. Got a lot of fire energy for you. A lot of airy energy for you, and etc. Beyond that, beyond too. I'm just throwing out little tidbits of true detail to help you understand. I am here to be able to approach you on all and any levels to help you transmute all your garbage into the optimization of self. Know yourself. Be the honesty that you know you are allowed to be. You have always been. Let go of the pedagrams. You are allowed to reprogram. You are allowed to optimize. The matter reduces to 5. The psi reduces to 1. Of course, it's all about the 6. They want to know your 6. They want to rape your 6. They want to corrupt your 6. They want to go inside your mental cortex and bent it and twist it and say that that's the way it's supposed to be. And that's what they done did, telling you to believe in some ball earth moving around shit, son, all the time. And this is moving around that. Hey, listen, I love Hollywood too, because that's what that stuff is. The earth moving around and we don't got the correct pictures, but believe us anyway. It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood. It's Hollywood. Well, at least it was the whole... Listen. You want a ball earth, you go there to do that. You want knowledge, you understand. You live on a plane that goes infinite. That way, this way, anyway. It's circle, it's infinite. Yeah, space travel is possible, but it's not what you think. It's not at the sky. It's outward in the sky. Source respect, and it can go infinite. You want to challenge it, go right ahead. Turn it off, please. I'm here to disintegrate all people who want to do it. Hold on to anything that has anything to do with actual field warship. Get off the channel and if you're interested in today's subscribe, you're still on the channel, even though you don't watch the videos, because I get sometimes this one right here. Sometimes I get that big fat 0, but you know what? That's for me to know that I'm in tune with the source, because that's what the zeros represent. Whenever you see zeros, you better know, you better appreciate them zeros. If you want to add any number next to them, you got to know how to appreciate them zeros first, because that's how you get in tune with the source energy, the mind, the true power, the true power. Now, you go that line, that's the source. Of course they want to know your 6, and what's the 6? The most beautiful. The self-care, the one you're unapologetic, they're looking real sexy with the self-care, the best babysitter, the best caretaker. But what I mean, no number could be a caretaker. No, it don't mean that at all. It just means innately the 6 has an innate way of just knowing how to nurture and care. And they know how to do it so well. They begin looking good, sexy, doing it too good like that too. I should know. I've had run-ins with 6s. Know who you are if you're watching. If not, who cares? I care. That's why I'm putting it out there, because I care. Source respect. They want to know how to rate your 6, because if you know how to do this for yourself, what is it? 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. It's the middle point, it's you. 6. It's a self-care total. It's a human. It's the completion. 6 protons, 6 neutrons, electrons. What is it? That's what makes up the human. The human being, the human vessel, you, what allows your soul and psyche and spirit and the energetic body and etherical bodies to rely in this realm. And thanks to the physical structure, ultimately they stay put in that. So it's all one. You gotta know the physical. You gotta embrace the physical, the 666. You gotta embrace. Can't be afraid. You gotta know the knowledge. Let me say, pray. You gotta know the knowledge. Go beyond. And you know the entities. You know the Krishna. You know the Buddha. You know the Christ. You know the Most High. You know the source energy. Whatever you want to call the entity, the God, whatever you want to call it. You're going to be in tune with it by understanding how to optimize the knowledge, integrate all knowledge. Let go of not learning something because you've been taught this. Of course, anybody who wants to control you is going to tell you, no, don't learn that. You're a human being. You naturally want to learn whatever you want to learn within respect to your vessel. in anyone else's vessel you're caring for. This is the thing. You have to challenge. You have to question. There is learning to be had with any information. All is to be appreciated. Let go of pointing the finger. Let go of pointing the finger. Let go of pointing the finger. You are in charge of creating the reality. You are in charge of creating reality. You are, by what you constantly focus on. Constantly, what you have been focusing on is what you will manifest in your immediate physical surroundings. That is it. That has always been it. That is it. It has always been it. And that is it. Matter. 5, allow that radical change to be owned by you. Don't let other people dictate the power of these words. I already told you, you want to know your spell, you got to know your spells. Go back to all the videos on this channel with a number in the title. Do you know how to spell yourself, or are you just glorifying how it's cool to let that TV and the news and anyone else outside of you or anything else outside of you spell you? Or do you know what things mean? Do you know what things are born of, what consists of, what they're made from? Do you know your constant self-talk? Do you have the courage to claim not to lay and lean on what the masses think? Even just because, oh, well, it's a group agreement, so I can just rest on that. I have to worry everybody thinks that that's what it is. No, let go. You're here to be you, and that will attract your soul tribe. 6, claim self-care. Do self-care by accepting self-challenges. Don't let go of putting off what you really want to do, or if you really want to break up with someone, or if you really want to try to be with someone. Do it. There is only do true self-inquisition, self-internal. Know yourself. Allow yourself to know yourself. You must admit the truth to you in all seconds, in all moments, in between those seconds. Source respect, source appreciation, source energy, source prosperity.